with option theory. Okay, so it's a joint work with Dylan Possamay, who was at Columbia University, and Nizar Touzi, who was at École Polytechnique. So here is the outline of the talks. First, I'm going to motivate the model. Then I'm going to propose a model for optimal contract of demand response. And then I provide directly the solution and some perspectives. Because I think that I'm the last obstacle between you and the wine. So,
there is a question session.
oh, yes, but I'm the other one. So it's going to be easy. OK, so let's start by the motivation. So demand response. What is demand response? Demand response is a contract. It's a piece of paper written between a consumer and a producer. I will always talk about a producer, while, in fact, it can be any retailer in energy market. In energy markets, it's very common. OK, and so what does it say? The consumer is paid to reduce consumption, which is a miraculous, but it happens. You're going to be paid to reduce consumption. It's because normally electricity and gas is provided at the retail level with flat prices. And at some period of time, the price of energy are very high, and the producer, they prefer people to reduce their consumption rather than to make a loss by buying electricity at a high price and reselling them at a low price. So the number of days where this situation happens are fixed in advance in the contract. In France, for instance, it's 27 days during winter. 27 days during winter, the producer have the option to say tomorrow it's going to be a price event. Okay? The days are chosen dynamically. You don't know, there is no schedule in advance, because those days depend on the realization of meteorological events. So in meteorological events are very high, there's this very cold wave. In California, a hot wave, then people want to consume, then the price goes skyrocketing, and the producer, they can predict. Yes. For retailers, for people like you and I, it's 1 day. For industrial, it can be 2 days. Okay, depending on their process. But this is dynamic. And what I am interested in is about this kind of contracts. Okay, they are very common, and they have been sold since the 80s. So example, forms of demand response. There are a lot of forms of demand response contract. And the most common form for us, for people like you and me, small consumer, is the domestic form. So you are going to pay your electricity on non-event price days at a price which is going to be lower than the normal tariff price. So for instance, you're going to pay 10 cents when the normal tariff is 15 cents. Only the energy part. I'm only concerned about the energy part. I don't look at the transmission, distribution, and only energy. And so during those days, you pay less your electricity, but during price event days, you're going to pay 7 times the price. Okay? So it's a huge difference. Okay? So the day you want power, it is the day when it's going to be the more costly. Okay? This is one form. And there is around 30 price events per year. And there is another form, which is named rebate. And this form is very commercialized for industrial customers. And what is this form? It is written there. The consumer receives money for the consumption they saved compared to a baseline. So what does it mean? It means, it's simple, voilà. No equations, it's energy business. So, okay. So this is time, this is consumption, kilowatt hours. So during a day, non-price event, imagine that you consume here. This is your consumption. So this is going to be your baseline. And now there is a price event, and you consume this. And this quantity is the energy saved. And so you're going to receive this kilowatt hours times the price, and this is money that's going to be given to you. But if you consume here, this amount you're going to pay at a very high price. Okay? Simple, arithmetic. Bon. Okay, this is potentially baseline manipulation. It is very well known. When they commercialize this kind of contracts to industrial, in fact, you can manipulate your baseline. You see, huh? We talked a lot of arbitrage. If I sell those contracts to you, you're going to do that. Why? So there is a guy, so there's a company, Enerwise, huh, who was managing the Camden Yards baseball park energy provider. They were the energy provider of those guys. And so they advise the owner of this guy, tomorrow there's going to be a price event, so you should raise your baseline. So those guys, they switched on all the lights in the stadium during the day, just to increase the baseline. So they were there. The next day, their consumption was there, so they, bling, huh? They made money. So they thought, just like, they thought they'd made money, but they got caught, those guys, they got caught. So, and they were fined 780,000 penalty for the Federal Energy Commission, and there are more things to pay, and more things to pay, and more things to pay. It depends. It depends. And there's a lot of question about what type of baseline you should define so that it is not manipulable. Bon, okay, well, this is interesting. Okay, so some remarks. First, demand response, they reduce. There's been a lot of experiment on demand response with control groups, and on average, they reduce significantly consumption. Yes, they do, but with significant variance. If you look at the variance of responses of people, there is a lot. For instance, I give you 3 examples. Example across experiment. So if you design your favorite demand response program and you implement it, and you can have response in your pool of consumer between 10% and 15%. So if you do things wrongly, only 10% of the people are going to respond. You're going to obtain only 10% of consumption reduction. If you design well, you're going to have 50%. But this is across experiment. Different control groups, different situations, different countries, different contracts. The Low Carbon London experiment is a public experiment. All the data are available on the web. And in this experiment, which held in 2013, they observe consumption variation between minus 20 watt and plus 20 watt. Plus 200 watt for consumption of order magnitude of 1 kilowatt. So it means, what does it mean? Why it can be increased? Because when there is a price event, it's a moment when it's a moment when people, they want power. So they consume a lot. So even in this time, they consume, they give up and they consume. And even for industrial customers, at one customer level, you can observe a variation in the response across price event. Yes, because people, they are not machine. They are not gas-fired plant. When you send them a signal, they don't obey. Because demand constraints, they fail to enhance responsiveness, just like power machines. They fail to achieve regular reduction. People are not machines. It happens things in their life when they make other choices when the moment of choice happens. So I move a lot. C'est bon? It's okay. Okay. Okay, so responsiveness, in fact, is linked with moral hazard. It's a remark that we made. In fact, when you design your demand response contract, in fact, you are changing the behavior on the consumer. Okay, for instance, in demand response, it's a situation with a principal and an agent. Here, the principal is the producer. He wants people to reduce the consumption, and the agents are the consumer. And in domestic contract, what happens is they say to the consumer, every day, you're going to pay less. But some days, you're going to pay more. But when the consumer, he reaps the benefit of the decrease of prices every day of the year, and when the bad situation occurs, then he makes a new comparison. He says, OK, it's more expensive, but it's one day. Who cares? And then it does not reduce his consumption. So it's a problem of moral hazard. OK?
So maybe there's constraint or the constraint.
Exactly. Thanks, Raphael. I'm going to use this remark a lot. People have constraints in their life. I'm going to use example on that. I'm going to explain why our model is so appropriate for that. And I think that is experienced life that Raphael is talking about, and we're going to see that. So my question is, what is the optimal contract? What is the optimal contract? And so now the results. So if you want to leave the room, now you can, because you're going to know the results. So first, I'm going to propose a model where we are going to enhance consumer responsiveness. We are going to try to provide incentives for the consumer to provide regular responses. Okay, and so we are going to do that in optimal contract theory in continuous time, because we love partial differential equation and backwards stochastic differential equation. And we're going to provide closed form solution of the optimal contract. This is quite a result. We are going to consider only the linear case. We're going to see that what is linear, the energy value and the cost of production is going to be linear. But in this case, miraculously, the solution, the optimal contract, is the rebate. It is this one. The optimal contract is this one. Yes, it is this one. And in our case, it is baseline proofness. It is an effect of the model. If you ask questions in the end about, yes, but what, blah, 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 you say, yeah, you make in real life, it's going to be more difficult. But in our model, it is going to be baseline proofness. And going to illustrate the thing. Okay? So the model. How much time do I have? 15 minutes. Okay? No, we're going to do like, now it's extendable. It's relativity. Okay, so in this slide, now you have two slides of equations. Two slides of equation for the model. First, the consumer, who's going to be the agent. And the agent is going to be a representative agent of a pool of consumer, if you think about it. So it's one guy who is there. Huh? And we have only one state variable, which is x. And x is going to be his consumption. And go be written like this. I'm going to consider a price event. Only I focus on a price event of duration capital T. And during this price event, the initial condition is x0, so it starts here. And then, if he makes efforts, AI, on the usage number I, so there are n usages in his house, the TV and so on. If he makes efforts, the consumption is going to reduce. Okay? The consumption is going to reduce. We only consider consumption reduction. When we design the model, we were focused on that. We forget that sometimes we may want people to increase consumption. But it will be the same. So usage per usage, you can decrease its consumption. Okay, and now the trick, you're going to puzzle yourself, I'm sure. And there is noise in this consumption. This is the thing that Raphael is talking about. In your life, things happen. When you enter home, you have kids, and kids take decisions at your place. Okay? And so these DWI are the kids. They enter home and they have decisions, and they want, for instance, they go back home during the price event, and it is very soon. Okay, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you thought that your kid is going to be back alone. He's back with 5 of his friends, and their intention is to play World of Warcraft in the living room and cooking pizza in the oven. Okay? So for you, it's the shock. DII, okay, with many usages. And you can influence this shock. You can reduce this shock by the control BI, okay, because you are the parents, okay? And you're going to say to the children, this shock, no, no, no. You're going to drink cold milk in the basement and playing cards, okay? 3 usages, I1, A2, A3. Yes. I have no kids. Okay. This is why. Voilà, c'est pour ça. So I have full control of my electricity consumption. Okay, and if you don't do that, you're going to have the nominal volatility sigma I. Okay, and the consumer is an expected utility maximizer guy. He has a utility function, expectation like this. Nu is going to represent the control, A and B. A is for the drift, B is for the volatility. He has value of energy. F of x is going to transform kilowatt into energy, into value. So this is euro. And C of nu is the cost of making an effort, and it is also measured in euro per unit of time. Okay? Okay, and we're going to consider constant marginal cost, kappa. This is the linear case. This is why we call linear case. And of course, the guy has exponential utility with risk aversion, small r. Okay? And he has we chose an analytical form for the cost function. And one feature which is important, there are 2 features which are important. They are strictly convex per usage. They are not coupled. and there is decouplation, there is no cross effect between A and B. It simplifies the computation. OK? Voilà, bon, c'est fait. The producer, alors, no, okay, and what is XI in this story? XI is going to be the payment. I forgot that it is the optimal contract. This is the important part. Okay, so the guy, the agent, is going to receive a payment XI. Okay, but the payment is going to be decided by the producer. So the objective of the producer, which is the principal, is going also to maximize its utility, but the guy has only costs. He has 3 costs. He's going to pay the guy. He's going to produce electricity at the function g, which is going to be linear, and also he can bear a cost of volatility measured by the quadratic variation. And is also risk averse. Voilà. And so the producer objective, what is it? Is try to, attention, beware, is going to maximize over xi, but knowing that when he sends the contract xi to the guy is going to respond, the agent is going to respond with an optimal response, which is going to be nu star of xi. So I am the agent, I am propose the contract domestic, then I make my optimal computation. If you propose the contract like this, then I do that. This is nu star of xi. Okay? And there is participation constraint. If you don't put this constraint saying that you have to find contracts which maintains the consumer at a certain utility level, then you're going to, it is slavery. Huh? If you suppress that, then you're going to put the guy to minus infinity. Okay?
Plus the producer has to decide which days are the price events.
Yeah, alors, I don't consider the question of exercises, because for this there is a lot of work, but for what is the form of the contract during price event, there is not so many. Okay? Yes? Yes, yes.
How much reasonable is in that?
It is, believe me, it is, for way, it's okay. Wait, bon. It's okay, modulo. We made sensitivity analysis on that in the paper, a lot of that. But you're going to see that the fact that we find the analytical form for that is worth any cost. No, you're going to see. Before that, there was many other problems. Okay, so these are the second best. This one is the second best. This is the second best. The problem is designated as the second best. I turn you the back. It's the second best. It means that, voilà. But the first best, what is the first best? The first best is when the producer can decide both the contract and the optimal effort while maintaining the consumer, while respecting the participation constraint. Okay, this is, I'm going to decide what's going to happen in your house. It's very intrusive, but whatever. Okay? So this is the problem. Alors, because I've seen that people here have very, very difficult problems, so I have to say that mine also is very difficult. It's a very difficult problem because the producer observes only X. He does not observe A and B. He does not know what is happening. He does not know that, Georges Zubeli's kids entered at 4 o'clock, because also today is the International Day of Samba. You know that. So he doesn't know that they want to have a party in his house during a peak wave of heat. Okay? So this is the first best, and this is generally the benchmark for optimal contract. But for this one, it is standard optimization. Temu, standard optimization is for you. Okay? Just to see that you are here. Okay, bon. Just some notations. I need the Hamiltonian only. I only need the Hamiltonian of the optimization problem of the agent. So this Hamiltonian, which is going to be separable between the drift and the volatility, is going to be Z and gamma are you have to figure out that these Z and gamma are payment rates. Z and gamma are going to be numbers, and they are going to be payment rates. I'm going to explain. So this is explicit. We don't care. You just, when you see that, H is in euro. It is money. If you give some payment rates Z and gamma to the consumer, H is euro. This is the maximum euro he can earn when you send him the payment rates Z and gamma. This is the only thing that you have to know. Okay. And now, what is the optimal contract? So there's optimal contract theory in continuous time. There are many, many papers. All the papers are cited in the reference in the end. But I'm going to rely on this form of writing the optimal contract, which is a BSDO. This is why they love it so much. And what does it mean there? So the optimal contract, without loss of generality, the Gijs-Vladyk Poisson method, they show that optimal contract on return on X and on the volatility, they can take this form. They can take this form without loss of generality. And if you write the contract in this form, whatever Z and gamma, you're going to ensure that the utility of the agent is going to be precisely its participation utility. So if you write a contract like this, long formula, x0, y0, z and gamma, whatever z and gamma, the guy, its certainty equivalent is going to be y0. Y0 is money. Okay? So why is it important? It is important because if the contract is written this is, then you have z and gamma, two stochastic processes that you can use, that the principal can use to perform its own optimization. Okay? So this is the trick. When you write a contract like this, a master student can solve any optimal contract problem of this form. Okay, I have some comments on that. So Z is going to be a payment rate on X, on the variation of X, and gamma is going to be a payment rate on the volatility. Okay, and there is a minus, but I won't comment. If you have questions during the question section, I will explain why there is a minus. So what is the optimal contract? I say, it's finished, it is this. It is this. This is the optimal contract. Okay? Yes, but we need to find Z and gamma as a function of all the parameters. Okay? Okay. Okay, so the optimal contract. So for the first best, we don't need this. For the first best, you just need a paper and patience. Paper, patience, boom. Okay, and so the optimal first best contract is given by this form. Alors, I explain. In the first best, you observe the efforts. So this is traditional and this is classic in optimal contract theory. When you observe the effort of the agent, you pay him just the cost of his effort. So this is why there is this quantity, sum from 0 to t of the optimal effort. Okay? That you enforce the effort. Okay? And Xi is in euro, so it is L0 minus this quantity, kappa x0 capital T. You pay the effort, and then there are two terms. And now I'm going to make a drawing. Okay, so what is it? So you have noticed a big drawing for people who are at the back of the amphitheater. Okay? So the price event is like this, capital T. This is x0. If the guy makes no effort on the drift, if he makes no effort, the consumption is martingale. So on average, it is x0. So it is this. Okay? So this is x0. So you multiply it by kappa, and this quantity is exactly kappa x0 capital T. Vous avez vu? You have seen that? Huh? That is a complex computation. So what does it mean? It means at the start, you begin by taking money from the consumer, and you take the money that, all the money that he would earn, all the value he would earn of the energy if he makes no effort. Okay? So you wanted to have L0. First, I'm going to take you back kappa x0 capital T. Now, if you want to recover L0, you need to make some efforts. You need some efforts, because I've taken all the value of energy for you. So in the first best, I pay the effort, and now look at that with the French accent. Sum from 0 to capital T, PE times this difference. What is it? Now with color, because we have colors. I don't know if you're going to see that in yellow. So imagine it goes like this. Voilà, ça c'est X. What does it mean? It means if the guy consumes more than X0, it is negative. C'est ça, hein? It is negative, so you take money. So you give money, you take money, you give money. So it's exactly a rebate form. If the consumer decreases, you give money to the consumer. If his consumption increases, you take money from the consumer. Okay? And there is a price for the energy. And the price is a linear combination of the marginal cost of production of electricity and the value of electricity for the consumer. This is why it is worth doing this case, because if theta is random, for instance, if you think that it is the price of electricity, okay, maybe, but then it is very readable. Huh? C'est pour ça, this is why you made this effort. And the weights are just the risk ratio, is risk ratio. And there is also a price for the volatility. It is exactly the same. And the price for volatility is the risk aversion, the risk ratio of the producer times H. So if H is 0, or if the producer is risk neutral, there is no price for volatility. Okay, and look at that. Imagine that theta, the marginal cost of electricity, is much higher than kappa. So it means it is a peak day. It is really a moment where generating electricity is much more costly than the value it has for the consumer. So it is really a moment when you want people to decrease electricity. Okay? And look at that, the convex combination, this number is going to be bigger than theta, is going to be bigger than kappa. You agree? Vous êtes d'accord? Ça, it's going to be bigger than kappa. So the guy has an incentive because he's going to earn money. Something is worth for him kappa, and you're paying him something which is above kappa. So he's going to make some effort. Hein? Voilà. Incentives explain. Voilà, bon. And the contract as a rebate form. Voilà. So this is the first best. The second best. The second best, I have, bon, là, je suis, but everybody sleeps at the first row. So you're dead. I'm going to speak for 1 hour. The second best optimal contract is given by this quantity, and it is exactly the same. It is also a rebate form. It is also a rebate form, like that. But now the price of electricity is a function of time, but it is a deterministic function of time. Okay, and we can compute this function, but numerically. We can compute this rate numerically. But now you cannot observe the effort. So you don't pay the value of the effort. You take out of the consumer the maximum benefit he would earn if we would make optimal effort. Minus, so you remember, you took him kappa t x0, and now you subtract to him another value, which is the optimal benefit he would make if he makes optimal effort. So now, if he wants to recover L0, he has to make efforts. Okay, bon, voilà. So, okay, so I did this, okay, because I have to, bon, this one I skip. So I give you some illustration, and then I'm done. Just the energy prices, the quantities that we have seen. So in this picture, so there has been calibration. I skip the calibration and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. OK, but what is represented? Theta. Theta is the marginal cost of production of electricity. And we suppose that it is a peak day. So imagine it is here. It is something like 67 pence. It is the price that we have seen in the first slide. When during peak day, the price is 67. So it is the marginal cost of electricity. Alors, the first best, PEFB, it is the price of energy during the first best, for the first best. It is this quantity. It is a convex combination of 67 and something like 40. I think it was 40 or something. No, now it is 40. So it was something like 15 pence. And R and P are equal. R and P are equal, so R over R plus P is 1/2. So look at this difference. So these are two values. So the first best energy value is 40 pence per kilowatt hour. But look at the price of energy in the second best. It is this blue line. Alors first, it is not equal to the first best. It is not equal to the marginal cost. It is non-constant. It is higher at the beginning and lower at the end, and it is not continuous. It is not continuous. There is at some point, it is continuous, but it jumps like this. No, P is not continuous. It jumps. At some point, it jumps, and it is exactly the same point here. And the price for volatility is here, in the second best and in the first best. In the first best, it is close to 0, but it is not 0. But it is incredibly smaller than in the second best. In the second best, to provide regular responses for the consumer, in the second best case, it has to be very, very high. OK? Implementability. Alors, maybe I leave that for the questions, because I'm late maintenant. Normally, because it's late. So you are tired, but nevertheless, even if you're nice, You think, because I've done this talk a lot of times, okay, and people say, oh, it's nice. I know you notice that it is second order backward stochastic differential equation, huh? And so you say, yeah, yes, because you know how to solve those kind of things with the control of volatility. This is why you design this model. In part, it is true, okay, but it is very useful. So you say, but how the consumer can understand the relation between his actions and the volatility? This is what you ask, George. Huh? You have this question in mind. Okay, so exactly, the volatility is something which is a concept that people in this room can understand very easily, but even if I write, for instance, a contract for you on the volatility of the consumption, then you will have some difficulty to understand what kind of actions can affect the volatility. Okay, so the question is about implementability. So you have the optimal contract, but then you want to do some marketing, or you want to do some transformation that would make the contract acceptable for the consumer. And one way, for instance, for the consumer to have some incentives for the consumer to provide regular responses is the following. You're going to consider across price event, so you multiply the price event, and there are 30. You measure each time its consumption. It is the average consumption during, so this is the consumption during a one price event. And then you're going to say, I'm just going to measure the difference between your target and what you have consumed. And whatever, if you're above or below, I don't care. What I want is that you stay close to a certain target. Okay? And this is one way, for instance, to provide regular responses. Because now there is an incentive for the consumer at each price event to provide the same response, which is here XC. Okay? And so, perspectives, so I put many, but just one. In fact, the only thing which is very, very fantastic would be to make a pricing trial. So now we are in discussion with Imperial College, who has designed a platform with smart meters that's going to be distributed to students, and for which they are going to use this to perform some experiment on demand response. And so we are going to try to do this with them. Thank you for your attention. Bon. Sorry for the delay. Bon.